Good morning, everyone. We are going to talk about the disaster management today. I had given you an introduction about this chapter in the Zoom session. Now, this disaster management happens after the disaster is about to happen. So, what preparations can be done? Once the disaster strikes, what should be done? And after the disaster is over, how can we overcome the effects of this disaster? So we have to be prepared before a disaster happens so that the disaster can be contained. If we are not prepared, if we are unprepared, then a natural hazard can change into a disaster. So we need to be prepared, we need to be ready to face and manage the emergencies in order to reduce the impact of a disaster. Now it deals with minimizing or avoiding any situation which can change into a disaster. It involves preparing, warning, supporting, and rebuilding the society when a disaster occurs. Now, what happens is the four stages of a disaster management are, of course, preparation. That means before an emergency happens, you need to develop some plans to face it. To recruit volunteers from the civilians itself, people who are ready to help in case of an emergency. Then we have to develop shelters because sometimes the disasters are such that the houses get broken down, they get damaged, their roofs get damaged. So we need to pull out people from these kind of damaged and destroyed houses and put them in shelters. So we need to develop shelters. We also have to install warning systems so that people can be warned much in advance before a disaster occurs, like floods or a cyclone, so that people can be evacuated, they are forearmed, they are forewarned, and they do not face a lot of problems. And we have to also rehearse with the volunteers and the people of the government how to evacuate people, so that rehearsals also have to be done on a regular basis. What should happen once the disaster happens? What is the response? During the initial impact, we have to reach out to the local volunteers. They have to be informed. Firefighters have to get moving. Police, ambulances, NGOs, they should join and they may join to provide help. Then we need to recover from the dangers which we are in, including the efforts towards bringing life back to normal. Immediate needs to be met and repairing damages and infrastructures and re-employment. Obviously, shops get destroyed, agricultural fields can get destroyed, people's occupation might go, houses can be, knocked down, electric poles go down, cars, vehicles, buses, public transport system, everything gets broken down, and therefore all that needs to be recovered. Then is the mitigation. Activities to reduce the impact. That means how soon can we reconstruct or re-establish people with all these problems. So we'll start with the floods first. What safety measures should be taken before, during, and after the floods have happened? Now we have to keep track of the water level, because every place wherever there's a city and a river overflows, there are marks, cement poles where marks are kept green, orange, and red. So we need to see how the level of the water increases and keep track of it. So once we keep track of that water level, we build flood levees or walls so that the water should not enter the city areas very soon. Then we have to keep a disaster kit ready somewhere on the top floor, because flood waters will occupy the ground floor of your houses. So we need to keep a kit ready in which we should have drinking water, some food like biscuit packets, cash, medicine, first aid, battery operated radios and extra batteries, torch. All this must be kept on the top floor. Then alternative routes, once you are stuck in a flood, what route should you take so that you can be saved? These items should be kept on the upper floor or a higher level, and we need to turn off the electrical switches. Now, when we keep the water and drinking water and food in a emergency kit, we must keep changing it after every few days, so that when we need to drink it, it should not go stale. When the flood has happened, we should not walk or swim in the flood waters. We should stay away from electric poles or power lines, take help from the rescue teams, and follow instructions given by the authorities. Once the flood is over, do not return to the flooded areas till the authorities say so. Do not use flood water to drink or to cook food. Repair the damaged septic tanks which are there in your homes. All this needs to be done after the flood is over. It is very, very imperative that the flood water should not be used because it will be carrying diseases, carrying bacteria and microbes, and therefore we should not use it. Next disaster is a drought. Actually, drought is something which mostly humans are responsible for. So rather than facing a drought, we should try and prevent the drought from happening. And it might extend to a few months to a few years. It all depends upon how well we are utilizing the water and we are not wasting it. So some precautions must be taken to prevent droughts from occurring. Do not let the water flow unnecessarily. Turn off taps when not in use. Recycle, reuse the water from kitchen can be used in the gardens. Gather the water, stock up the water to last at least a week. Collect rainwater, protect water from pollution, and spread as much awareness as possible. Next disaster is an earthquake. Now we all know that there are certain places only which are prone to earthquakes. So those people must follow the local seismic building standards. That means they should not build very high buildings, construct very high buildings. Their foundation must be stronger. There are certain parameters or certain instructions which must be followed when they are constructing their homes or their buildings or their offices or their industries, whatever. Whatever we are storing, heavy objects should not be stored up on a second or a third or a fourth level of the almirah. They should be stored closer to the ground, along with flammable objects, pesticides in closed cabinets. Repair damaged structure on regular basis, because if the damaged structures are present, then when the earthquake happens, the structure will fall off, you might get hurt, and there will be more damage done which will cost you time and money. When an earthquake is happening, we need to take shelter in an inside wall or under some heavy furniture. We should not stand close to a glass window or a mirror because it might shatter and hurt us. We need to stay away from buildings and trees or electric poles or bridges if we are outside and not inside the home. We have to keep again a disaster kit handy with flashlights, emergency food and water, medicines, cash, card, identity proof, and blankets. Now, in the floods, when we're talking about floods, we said that the emergency kit should be kept on the second or the third floor, on higher level of a building. But in this case, the emergency kit should be kept somewhere near your gate, because there's a possibility that you might not be able to enter your house once an earthquake has happened because the structure might get destroyed. So it has to be kept somewhere outside your home. Once the earthquake has happened, plan of how to reunite with your family members. That means the contact list of relatives outside the area of your residence must be shared with your family members, so that once the earthquake is over and you are unable to find your close relatives or your family, they should at least call up one relative outside that area and you will get reunited with them. So this is for now, and then later I'll share the rest of the video. Only a few topics are left, which I'll share in my next video. Watch it and let me know if you have a problem. Bye bye.